Next question.
My name's David King. I'm with the National Defense University. It seems to me that this argument really comes down to a difference between a business case for consumers and a taxpayer case for consumers. Jody, I think you're pushing the taxpayer case. I think that taxpayer case varies, as Robert C. Atkinson has pointed out, by locality. So how do you make the case, Jody, that the social returns or other unknown positive externalities make the taxpayer case? And I, as a taxpayer, am really interested in how you would do that.
Okay, I think, forgive me if I'm misunderstanding the question.
Please feel free to correct me. But so for me, the taxpayer case for consumers is all of the benefits that we all get when someone else gets access to the internet.
You got to quantify that.
I'm sorry, what was that?
You quantify that.
I'm unaware of studies that have been able to figure out how to quantify all of the positive externalities. I mean, there's any number, there's so many different avenues that you could look at. You could look at how it benefits our education system, and how do we quantify the educational benefits today, and also the educational benefits for the 5-year-olds who are in kindergarten right now. Mike brought this up earlier. There's the lack that we have right now in terms of adequate broadband service to schools and other community institutions. What's the benefit in the future, 20 years from now or 50 years from now, when they're in the workforce, and the benefits that they've gotten from having access to the internet? There's things like, what is the benefit of somebody who's able to launch a business on the internet that I get, because now I'm able to access that business on the internet? There's, as we add more services, there's things like the benefits. How do you quantify the benefit of a phone network when our phone network might be all IP at some point in the future? Probably not today, probably not tomorrow, but maybe in 10 years or 20 years in the future when it's all IP. Has anybody quantified the benefit of phone service in general? I think it's the question is so broad, it's hard to find a hard number on that.
I agree with the difficulty. But would you not be better approaching this not from a national policy perspective, as others point? Would you not be better off approaching this issue not from a national single regulatory basis, but from a very local basis? Because the problem is largely best solved locally, as I think other speakers have pointed out. There are those who choose to live isolated, and there are those who would not choose to live isolated if they had any other way around it. That kind of policy you're talking about, I believe, has benefit. But unless we can convince taxpayers everywhere to support Manhattan, Nevada, we have a problem. Therefore, we have to look for a more localized solution. Would that be fair?
Well, I think, so in terms of, there are people who choose to live in rural areas, I think that it's not impossible to convince people that we don't want a policy that requires everybody to move to the suburbs or cities, or at least the rich part of the cities, to get access to broadband. Center for Rural Strategies does a lot of great work on this, pointing out how people can live in rural areas and want to stay there and be doing socially productive things for all of us there, but at the same time want in on this infrastructure that we've all invested in.
So if I can just respond to that quickly. I think the problem with this debate, Dave, is it tends to oscillate between people who believe that the externalities are zero, and it is a purely market-driven activity, and the externalities that are massive, in which case you're justified by pouring tons of subsidies at everything and hopefully something sticks to the wall. In our view, the reality is something much more nuanced than that. I think the justification for giving federal money to Chattanooga was zero, because they already had 100 megs. So the benefit to get to a gig, that's not where I would put mine. I don't think there are any externalities from that right now. The externalities are so small and they're vastly outweighed by the price. Same thing with, if you look at the National Broadband Plan and that hockey curve, that hockey stick curve of getting 100% wired. I mean, you're talking a massive, you remember what the number was?
It's 200 and
It was $2.5 million a home for the last
Yeah.
1%.
Yeah, so, yeah, I don't think.
0.44% was brutally expensive.
But yeah, so we clearly, the economic case, even if, you buy Metcalfe's law, which I don't buy at all, the economics just don't make any sense. The cost is vastly outweighed by even the externality benefits. So we got to be strategic and thoughtful and non-ideological about this debate. There are going to be certain places where modest subsidies are right. There are other places with certain, like I 100% agree with Jeff, a really great investment for our country would be low-income families with kids in schools, big externality benefits from that. But we just got to be smart about it and not make, in our view, broad, generalized statements.